everybody, welcome to Maps Mastery, and in this module we're going to talk about lead generation strategies. This is such an important topic because all too often as a home service business owner, it's very reactive. In my construction company, one of my biggest mistakes that I had was I would go out, I would market for the jobs, I would sell the jobs, I would do the jobs, and then when the job was over, I was like, oh shoot, I got to go out and I got to market more for the jobs, and I do the jobs. And then it's like, oh shoot, I got to do it again. And it's just this cycle where it just feels like we're always reacting and we freak out when all of a sudden the phone stops ringing. So what we have to do, and in this module, I want to encourage you to start putting together a system to let these leads and these phone calls and these customer contacts come into your business on autopilot. It's so important. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a competitor in your own town or perhaps your own state in your area where they're bigger than you? And you know that your quality is better than them? Doesn't that drive you crazy? Why are they bigger? Well, oftentimes these bigger companies that are more automated, that grow, that scale, they become excellent marketers. And I want you to think of yourself not as a service business owner, but as a professional marketer. You have to understand the skill sets to be able to market. And this also comes with stamina. It requires a lot of work. It requires testing out what works in your market, what doesn't work in your market, trying out some different strategies, measuring the results, and then putting together an overarching strategy to dial in what I call the lever. Now, when you hear the word lever, sometimes people misconstrue this concept. They think that it's like a slot machine, where you like go up to the slot machine and you go ka-chunk, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, like all this money just starts pouring out at you. That's not what a lever is. A lever is something that you have to go and you have to consistently pull on a regular basis. But every time you pull on that lever, you put $1 up at the top and a customer comes out, or $10 up at the top and a customer comes out. It's consistent. You have a consistent customer acquisition cost. And we're going to talk about this in other modules, to where when you go in there and you start and you pull that lever, customers will come into your business. And the only way that you can do that is by testing out different channels and different strategies and putting together your lead generation strategy. And this is really important to remember, that marketing game is always changing. So I don't know if you've ever read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? But it's about these two mice that are running the race inside this maze trying to find the cheese. And they're running through this maze and they find this nice pile of cheese, and every single day one mouse goes to that same pile of cheese and is like, I found my cheese. Whereas the other mouse continues to run the maze and look for another pile of cheese. One day, this first pile completely disappears. The first mouse is so dejected because he was like, but this was the cheese I always used. I don't understand. Whereas the second mouse, every single day he was on the lookout. He was on the lookout for finding other strategies, other ways that he could make sure that he could keep his business afloat. And this is why a lot of businesses die. What worked for you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even right now, may not work for you in just a few months, or 6 months, or a couple of years. So we have to keep a good pulse on what's happening in the marketing world. And this is what professional marketers do. So let's talk about 4 different marketing groups and categories that you can invest in. The first one is online marketing strategies. Now, you're probably familiar with a lot of these, but I'm going to go ahead and cover them one by one. First off, we have Google AdWords. Google is the #1 search engine in the world. Did you know that 97% of Google users will use Google to find the business that they want to do business with? 97%. In fact, 86% of all consumers, when picking out a service provider, they will use online search tools like Google to be able to find that next one. If you do not have a good presence and a good strategy for converting on Google AdWords, you have to make sure that you're at least doing something in that space. The next one is SEO, or search engine optimization. You know when you type in the search results and someone's right up there at the top? You want that top spot to be you. Now, Google is always changing their algorithms. They're always changing, their 4-pack, what those local results are up at the top, how to get in there. And really, we don't expect you, and I certainly don't expect you, and even myself am not a professional when it comes to some of these things, like SEO and Google AdWords. Rather, I use third-party companies to help me out with that stuff. So with some of these strategies, remember, you don't have to become the expert in SEO and Google AdWords and write all your own blog posts and make sure you have your backlinks and make sure that you are running all of your Google AdWords campaigns. There's a lot of fantastic service providers that can do this for you for a very nominal fee and get you way better return on your investment. So if you've struggled with these channels in the past, think about maybe outsourcing them to a company that does this professionally for a living. Now let's talk about Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms. One of our Conquer members just recently used TikTok, actually, and his videos went absolutely viral, and he got dozens of customer leads and requests off of one organic video that he put on there and hid nothing to. No ads, no sponsored, no boosted posts. He was literally just posting that video. Social media is a massive trend, and you have to be involved on social media. So make sure that you have your listing pages. Make sure that you've secured your own business pages for Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot of fantastic platforms like Hootsuite or Post Planner, where you can actually schedule all of your organic posts long into the future so that it just kind of drips out on autopilot. But you have to make sure you have some kind of a presence in these areas. Last, we're going to talk about pay per leads. Now, there's a lot of negative stigma and association with pay per leads. If I say Angie's List to a group of contractors, immediately their hackles get up. They like, no, that's run, it's a total scam. And in some areas of the country, it may be. But really, what I typically find is people who struggle with pay per lead platforms, they aren't tracking their numbers. If you look at over a large period of time, how much and what the statistics are and the averages are for these platforms, oftentimes you may find that your customer acquisition costs are well within the range to be able to scale this very well. With some of these platforms, we'd spend $3,000 to $5,000 a month on these platforms, and they would always deliver back to us a huge ROI, but it's because it took stamina. We kept with it, we tested it, we tweaked it, we continually worked on it. And this is one of the things you have to do in order to make pay-per-lead strategies work for you and your business. I highly encourage you to check out different pay-per-lead strategies. There's a whole host of different services out there depending on what your home service business is, but check them out. It can be very worthwhile. The next area I want to talk about is direct response marketing. Now, this is a pretty broad category, covers lots of different things. First off, we have mail, flyers, postcards, etc., EDDM, every door direct mail. You have the ability to be able to get massive lists of your current customers and potential customers and compile them together and put campaigns to continue engagement with them. And again, we're going to talk about stamina. You have to make sure that if you're going to do these types of direct response campaigns, you don't just send out 100 cards or 100 flyers and then just check your watch and check your inbound leads and say, wow, it didn't work. No, never going to do that one again. You have to make sure that you have stamina to keep testing and tweaking these things every step of the way. Next is email blasts. Make sure that you're engaging with your current customers. There's also some email lists that you can purchase, although sometimes that can be a little bit shady when it comes to spam compliant rules and regulations, but there are genuine email lists that you can get when you sign up for different associations. If you join your local multifamily association, oftentimes they'll provide you a big list of all of their property managers or portfolio managers, and you can use those lists to be able to target ones. So definitely make sure that you have a good email strategy as part of your direct response lead generation tools. Text messaging blasts. This is one of the highest ROIs. A platform that I recommend is called Text Magic. I highly recommend you check them out. In fact, any kind of Twilio or any kind of these text message tools can be used with massive success. Did you know that open rates on text messaging is about 95% and people respond within 2 minutes on average to a text message? If you compare that to email, where the average open rate is somewhere around 18 to 22%, it's a massive improvement. So watch your conversions skyrocket when you start sending out text message blasts to your leads, to your existing customers, and watch what that direct response is. Up next is voicemail blasts. Voicemails drop directly into the voicemail box of your existing customer. How cool is that? It doesn't even ring. So literally, when a customer picks up their phone, they'll see a missed call and they'll see a new voicemail. When they click on it, it's your pre-recorded message. Rather than calling every single one of your customers, leaving a voicemail, trying to reach them, you can drop these en masse to your customers within reason. Don't over abuse this system. Same with text messaging. But SendJim is a phenomenal tool to be able to do this, to drop those blasts directly into the customer's email box. Slide Broadcast is another great tool. There's a lot of tools that you can use to automate this process, even with your lead follow-up systems. So definitely make sure you're taking advantage of voicemail blasts. Bandit signs and yard signs. Now they call them bandit signs for a reason. You can use and abuse these. There are a lot of local regulations and county regulations and city regulations that make it illegal to put yard signs or bandit signs up wherever you want. So make sure that you're not taking black hat practices on this and just putting them in places that are clearly illegal, because that can have negative repercussions. But when it comes to yard signs for your customers, every time you go out and do an estimate and you book a job, ask the customer, hey, you know what? 90% of our business comes from referrals and from word-of-mouth referrals. Would it be okay if we put a yard sign just right out front? We'll pick it up when we're done with the job. But the second that you sell that job, stick a yard sign right in their front yard, and then come back and pick it up when you're actually doing it, and maybe even leave it there for a little bit longer and tell the customer that they can just pick it up and throw it away when they're done. They're only a few bucks to make these things up. And I promise you, the return can be massive, especially when you combine them with a couple other strategies we're going to talk about in some different modules. And lastly, print and magazine ads. Check with your local realtors, your local homeowner associations. There's some high-end neighborhoods that have neighborhood print magazines that you can take advantage of. Whatever ads you use in magazines or print, make sure that they're speaking to your target customer. Don't just go out and just put Clipper ads out just because. You want to make sure that it fits your customer avatar, which we'll also talk about in another module. All right, the next bucket we're going to talk about is memberships. This, for me personally, is my absolute favorite way to market and get leads coming in. And it involves taking advantage of memberships. Your local chamber of commerce, your local BNI chapter, different commercial associations or multifamily associations or trade associations. There's so many things that you can do to get involved. Now, if you'll notice, the picture that I have here is not just a logo that's on a website. Memberships are not just renting logos. If you're going to join your local chamber of commerce and never attend one of their networking meetings or one of their luncheons or one of their dinner networking parties, then don't join, because honestly, it does very, very little of an impact to your business to just have a logo on your website. You have to get involved. With our multifamily associations, we would check out every single educational lunch that they had, all the different classes. We would attend their trade shows. We would sponsor events. We would get involved. So if you're going to join a membership, make sure that you get involved. If you can't be the person that goes to these networking events, assign it to one of your dedicated salespeople for them to go out, because this is a massive lead generation tool, and this is a fantastic tool for building those relationships. All right, BOG marketing, also known as boots on the ground marketing. These are marketing channels that cost little to very little when it comes to the actual hard costs on the marketing. And this is not like spending $5,000 towards a marketing campaign. This is really boots on the ground marketing. Now, some people will argue that, well, it's not free because you're the one that's doing it and your time is involved in doing it. And I agree with that 100%. But when you're in a stage one business owner, boots on the ground marketing can be a phenomenal tool. Or even as you build out your sales team and you have commissioned salespeople, make sure that they're doing boots on the ground marketing activities. Door knocking. There's some pest control businesses and other home service businesses that have scaled to 7 figures, 8 figures, just with door knocking strategies alone. Now, for some people, this is really intimidating, but let me tell you, it works. If you can overcome the nerves and the butterflies of going and knocking on someone's door, especially with good scripts and good training on how to knock on a door and how to talk to people, you can get a lot of leads consistently into your business with this one method. Also, don't be afraid to cold call. Pull out a list of all of your different painters and landscapers and exterior cleaning companies and maid service companies and HVAC companies and plumbing companies and electrical companies, any other trades, call them up, cold call them. One of the things that I would do while I was driving out and about is if I saw a building that I knew that I could service, in my case, exterior cleaning business, I would just go and I would walk straight in and talk to the person and say, hey, you know what? I drive by your building almost every single day, and every time I drive by, I think to myself, man, I could make that building look so good. So I just had to stop by, leave you my card, tell you that we're a local business and what we could do for the curb appeal of your business here, and I'd love to earn it. So, something kind of like that to just get your foot in the door. Cold calling crushes it. I'm a massive fan. Get over your fear if you got the fear. Next, flyering and canvassing. So don't be afraid to make sure that every single one of your technicians are going around and leaving flyers and canvassing with neighbors and talking to people and engaging them. Boots on the ground marketing does not just have to stop with you. It can be everybody on your team. So you need to set them up to win. And then with regards to relationship building, again, this is such a massive, important point. Connect with other service business owners in your area and start building those relationships. And building relationships doesn't just happen overnight. They call them relationships for a reason. You got to cultivate them. You got to work it. You have to be a farmer. If you think about hunters versus farmers, hunters would go out and they would have this really bloody battle and chase and exhaust all this energy to get their one single kill. Whereas when farmers came into the scene, civilizations changed. Civilizations actually formed because farmers came in and they learned to think long term. And they started doing activities on a daily basis that netted them a much larger return down the road. So be a farmer, build those relationships. All right, now it's time to execute. What I want you to do is I want you to write down 5 to 7 channels that we discussed that you would like to start working on consistently and put it down. Schedule it into your calendar right now. Go in and just do it when you're going to start doing it and how much time and investment of money you are going to put into these channels to start testing them out and tweaking them. Also make sure in the Facebook group you tell everyone what you're executing on, call your shot, and help the group hold you accountable. All right, we'll see you guys in the next lesson.